Not slandering Rachel McAdams. Renee Rapp, just everything about her. She was born to play this character.
Bing bong.
Mean Girls really falls into that category of, do we actually need a new version of this movie? Because the original 2004 version is an absolute classic. If you have not seen it, why are you watching this video? It's also one of my favorite movies. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal and just a great movie all around. The only thing is, a lot of times in Hollywood these days, people at the top see that we like something 20 years ago and they're like, crank out another one, it's been too long, get a new one out, we gotta keep this running. I gotta be honest, I don't think Tina Fey, despite this being one of the things that she is most known for, hasn't really milked the Mean Girls it's not really a franchise. It's a single movie with a spin-off sequel that nobody was really involved in and we don't talk about. And then the musical, which this movie made me wish I had seen. Unfortunately, I did not watch Mean Girls until last year, and I know, it's not very fetch, but I'm glad I did, and boy am I glad I saw the Mean Girls musical movie. And that's right, this movie is a musical. I believe it is based on both the original film and the musical that was on Broadway. I'm not somebody that typically likes musicals, but something about Mean Girls, to me, just sort of has always lent itself to being a musical. Like, if the original movie had been a musical, sort of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? That would have made so much sense, because the subject matter just seems ripe for being a musical. It seems like you could make a ton of hilarious songs for a movie like this, which is exactly what they did. If you like Mean Girls, whether you saw the musical or the original movie or both, I can't see how you're not going to love this movie. A few months ago, I was on a plane, cycling through the movies that were on the plane. I saw 8th Grade by Bo Burnham was on there. Also one of my favorite movies. I don't know. I love coming of age stories. I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't explain why. I really like those types of films. So I watched 8th Grade again for, I think, second or third time. It felt like, because the subject matter of the movie was so tied to the time in which Bo Burnham made it, it felt like this movie, you could make it again in 15, 20 years so that it reflects that version of what someone's 8th grade experience is. And that's how I feel about the Mean Girls movie. Because the original film came out in 2004, before cell phones were really that big of a mainstream thing, before social media really even existed and things could go viral. It feels like all of that is really important to a movie like Mean Girls, because certain scenes in this film where, you're seeing things show up on TikTok and go super viral and people's reputations being completely ruined because of social media and everything that happens on the internet. It's one of those things where you're thinking back to the original film and you're like, how did they do this in 2004 without any of this stuff? Like back when the only way to see something was like on the news the next day or in a newspaper. This subject matter just lends itself so well to being retold for present day. Just thinking of this now, since I don't know what the crossover is on this channel between people that watch movies and play video games. It almost feels like a remastered video game where it's like, game came out 20 years ago, it's kind of old, maybe it doesn't look as good as it did when it originally came out, so let's bring it up to current day standards. And yeah, I mean, I loved this film. I thought there were enough nods to the original Mean Girls movie, whether it's characters repeating iconic lines or different things in the background of certain scenes or relationships between characters that you saw in the original movie being updated for present day. I loved all that stuff, and so I think there's enough nods to the previous material that's going to make longtime fans really, really happy. But I also think this movie really stands on its own. Like, if you have not seen the original Mean Girls movie or the musical, that's fine. I think it's incredibly likely that you'll go into this movie and just have a really fun time. It's hilarious. The songs are fantastic. Whoever was in charge of the casting, all right, both for the Mean Girls musical and for this film, Renee Rapp is Regina George. Like, no disrespect to Rachel McAdams, but Renee Rapp, if Regina George was in the dictionary, it's Renee Rapp's face. She is Regina George. This is the definitive version of the character. Not slandering Rachel McAdams. Renee Rapp, just everything about her, she was born to play this character, which I'm convinced she is an absolute sweetheart, fantastic, nice person. But in this character was it exists for her to play it. Sometimes in life, they're just these characters where it's like Kevin Conroy doing the Batman voice. It's like nobody else was ever meant to do the Batman voice besides him. This is it. This Regina George character, this is for Renee Rapp. Also, I really want to know, did they cast the girl who played Katie and then realized that she looked like she could be Jenna Fisher's kid, so they went to Jenna Fisher and asked her to be in the movie? Or did they cast Jenna Fisher and then they just started looking for people like teenagers who looked like they could be her child? Or is this her actual kid? I'm just, this girl looks so much like Jenna Fisher. It's kind of insane, but Jenna Fisher's great. The girl who plays Katie is also fantastic. The two girls that play Regina George's henchwomen are phenomenal. And the line delivery on so many of these jokes is just perfection. From start to finish, this movie was an absolute blast. I highly encourage anybody who loved the original to go see it. This is incredibly worthy of the Mean Girls name and being a part of that universe. And honestly, as much as we see so many unnecessary remakes or reboots of things that came out 15, 20, 30 years ago, this is one that feels like, because of the world and the way that things are, it's just not a bad idea to remake it every 15 to 20 years for the next generations, so that they can continue to experience Mean Girls, because I just want everyone to see these movies. They're so good. Incredibly enjoyable, and this is one that you do not want to miss. Then again, what do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet.